Donna Severina's body was found 3 days later. No one understood how a 97-year-old woman managed to climb to the top of the town's highest church before mysteriously disappeared. When they finally found their remains on the banks of the river, something even stranger caught the researchers' attention. Around his neck there was an old medallion with inscriptions that no one could decipher. And even more bizarre, forensic calculations indicated that the elderly woman had traveled almost 40 kilometers in less than 2 hours on the night of her disappearance, a physically impossible feat for anyone, let alone a lady who could barely carry a water bucket on the street without help. But this story does not start with Donna Severina. It starts with Mara. It was a suffocating afternoon in northern Cruz, that kind of heat that sticks the clothes on the body and makes the air shake before the eyes. The dust of the road rose in small yellowish clouds with every step that Mara and Jasper took the main street, deserted at that time of day. The sun punished relentlessly, reflecting on the worn asphalt and the faded facades of the houses. "Are you sure this place will give me a job?" Mara asked, running her back through her wet forehead. Her back eyes revealed sleepless nights, and her clothes, though clean, denounced better times for a long time. Jasper straightened the folder under his arm and smiled with that confidence that only 25-year-olds have when they believe they have the world under control. "Don't worry, I know the factory manager, we're almost brothers. A word of mine and you start tomorrow." Mara nodded, trying to believe that promise. "I had no choice." The refrigerator at home was empty, the late rent and the accounts accumulated like ants in a sugar clod. Since losing his job in sewing because of automation, each day was a battle. This interview was his last hope before the situation was really desperate. "How long yet?" he asked, feeling his legs weakened after almost an hour of walking under that merciless sun. "Just 2 more quarts," said Jasper, consulting the clock. "But we have to walk fast." "Mr. Mendonça doesn't wait for anyone, not even for me." It was when they bent the corner that they saw the scene. An elderly lady, curved under the weight of a large cloud, balanced bucket on her head. His fragile body looked like a dry stick about to break. Each step it took was a small victory against gravity. Suddenly the old woman stopped, shuddering. The bucket oscillated dangerously over his head, a few drops escaping and evaporating instantly by touching the scorching floor. "Please, my children." Your voice has trembling like sheet in the wind. "Help me carry this water. My body no longer has strength." Mara instinctively diminished the step, the heart tight by the scene. You had deep wrinkles on your face, like maps of a life of difficulty. His eyes, however, shone with an intensity that did not match his fragile appearance. Jasper pulled Mara's arm impatiently. "Come on, we're already late. If we don't arrive in time, the manager leaves and you can forget the job." Mara hesitated, divided between the urgent need of work and the appeal of that old lady, whose legs were visibly shaking under the weight of the bucket. "But she needs help," Mara murmured, watching how the old woman's breathing came out in short arrosses. Jasper sighed impatiently and looked at the elderly woman with poorly disguised frustration. "Mom, we don't have time," he said harshly. "We're going to an important place. Why did you carry this knowing it's too heavy?" The old woman didn't answer. He just blinked slowly, his dry lips moving in a silent prayer or perhaps a curse. It was impossible to say. Mara looked at Jasper, shocked by the hardness of her words. "How can you talk to her like this? It's an elderly lady." "This is not our problem," Jasper countered, crossing his arms. "Let her rest or wait for someone else. We have come too far to miss this opportunity." Something inside Mara rebelled. All his life had been a sequence of times when he had to swallow his own discomfort to survive. How many times have I ignored injustices because it was not your problem? How many times have you been looking away from those who needed help because you had your own problems to solve? "What if she falls?" asked Mara, more to herself than for Jasper. "What if no one else passes here today?" Jasper hit the paste against his leg in a gesture of frustration. "If we lose the manager, don't blame me later." But Mara no longer listened to him. An inexplicable force pushed her toward that lady. It was as if, at that specific time, time had slowed down, and an inner voice told him that seemingly simple choice would be much more important than any job interview. Mara approached the elderly with decided steps. He lowered a little to look at her in the eyes and smiled kindly genuine. "Mum," said gently, "where do you live? I help carry your water." The old woman stared at her with amazement, as if she didn't believe what she had just heard. "Will you really help me?" he asked in a shaky voice, his eyes now teary. "Yes, Mom. Give me the bucket," Mara replied by reaching out. Jasper watched the scene a few steps away, divided between irritation and strange restlessness. There was something in the elderly woman she couldn't define, perhaps the way her eyes seemed to pierce Mara's soul, or how her nodes moved with an unexpected dexterity by transferring the heavy bucket. Mara put the bucket over her own head, surprising with the weight. How could that fragile lady have loaded that? The water shaked inside the container, and for a moment Mara swore to see a strange shine reflected on the surface. Not the reflection of the sun, but something deeper, older. "Mom, show the way," Mara asked, adjusting the bucket for better balance. It was at this moment that something inexplicable happened. The sun, which rather punished mercilessly, began to hide behind clouds that seemed to have emerged out of nowhere. A fresh breeze suddenly blown, shaking the dried leaves on the floor and bringing unexpected relief. "It's here, my daughter," said the lady, pointing to a narrow trail that Mara had never noticed before, although she had passed that street countless times. "It's not far away." Jasper hesitated, visibly uncomfortable. "Mara, are you crazy? And the interview? It's almost 3 hours." Mara looked at her wristwatch and felt a tightness in her stomach. He was right. Only 20 minutes left for the interview. But something stronger than reason impelled her to follow that lady. "Go ahead, Jasper," replied with a firmness that surprised herself. "Explain the situation to the manager. If he's as understanding as you say, you will understand. If not, well, it may not be where I should work." Jasper opened his mouth and then closed it, clearly frustrated. Finally, he shook his head. "You're throwing away your only chance, Mara. Don't say I didn't warn you." And without waiting for an answer, he turned and rushed toward the factory. The old lady noted Jasper to move away with an enigmatic expression. "Not everyone has eyes to see beyond immediately, my daughter," murmured so low that Mara has hardly heard. "Don't worry about him," Mara replied, adjusting the bucket again. "Where do you really live?" "Right there," answered the elderly woman, pointing to the almost invisible trail between 2 houses worn out of time. "My name is Eulalia. And you, my daughter?" "Mara," she answered, following the lady along the narrow path that was serving among dry shrubs. As they advanced through the trail, Mara noted something strange. The more they moved away from the main street, the more the environment seemed to change. The vegetation, previously yellowed by the drought that was punishing the region for months, gained progressively more green shades. The air became less stuffy, and Mara could have sworn he heard the distant sound of running water. "Do you live here for a long time?" he asked, trying to keep a casual conversation as he fought with the weight of the bucket. Donna Eulalia released a soft laugh that sounded like the tiller of small bells. "Time. It's a curious thing, isn't it? For some, I've been here forever. For others, I've never been." Mara frowned, confused by the enigmatic answer. But before she could question, the trail widened, revealing a surprising clearing. In the middle of the drought that plagued the entire region, there was a small green oasis. A modest but well-groomed cabin was resting under the shadow of a leafy tree that Mara could not identify. It didn't seem to belong to that part of the country. "We arrived," announced Donna Eulalia, with a peculiar shine in her eyes. "You can put the bucket there near the garden." Mara obeyed, relieved to get rid of weight. He massaged his painful neck as he looked around, intrigued. How was that piece of land possible to be so vast when all the rest of the region suffered from the inclemented drought? "Do you have its own well?" he asked, noting how the small garden plants seemed vibrant and healthy. Donna Eulalia smiled mysteriously as she opened the cabin door. "I have my methods, my daughter. Come, enter. I would like to offer you something to drink after all this walk. The sun is merciless today." Mara hesitated briefly. Her mother had always warned her about entering strangers, but something in Donna Eulalia inspired confidence, inexplicable familiarity, as if they have known each other for a long time. The interior of the cabin was surprising. Despite the rustic appearance on the outside, inside was cozy and organized. Shelves on the walls showed an impressive collection of glass bottles with colorful content, dried plants hanging on the ceiling, and a pleasant aroma of herbs and spices hovered in the air. At a central table, several old books were stacked, some open on pages with detailed plant illustrations and symbols that Mara did not recognize. "Find yourself, please," invited the elderly, indicating a comfortable look. "I will prepare something refreshing for us," Mara observed as Donna Eulalia moved through the kitchen with surprising agility for someone who, minutes before, could barely carry a bucket of water. His movements were accurate and graceful, almost like a choreographed dance. "Do you live alone here?" Mara asked, noting that there were no signs of other people in the cabin. "Today," said Eulalia, as she dumped an amber liquid in 2 cups of clay, "but I get important visits from time to time, like you today." The elderly woman returned with the glasses and offered a Mara. The liquid had a citrus and refreshing aroma, with notes of honey and something Mara could not identify. "It's just my garden herbal tea with a touch of honey," explained Donna Eulalia when she noticed Mara's hesitation. "It will restore your energies after that scorching sun." Mara proved a cautious sip. The taste was delicious, sweet and refreshing, with a complexity that had never experienced in ordinary teas. Almost instantly, he felt a wave of well-being spread through his body, as if each sip washed the accumulated tiredness not only of the walk, but months of concern. "It's wonderful," he sincerely commented. "The lady who cultivates these herbs?" "Yes, each of them," said Donna Eulalia, sitting in the opposite chair with her own glass. "Each plant has its purpose, its history, its wisdom. I learned to hear them from a young age." Mara smiled politely, although she found the idea of plants talking strange or having wisdom. He took another sip of tea, feeling his mind to lightening progressively. "You're looking for a job," said Donna Eulalia suddenly. It was not a question. Mara widened her eyes, surprised. I had not mentioned this at any time. "How do you know?" Donna Eulalia smiled serenely. "The eyes speak more than the words, my daughter. I see the concern in there, the need, the fear of tomorrow." The accuracy of the observation made Mara feel exposed, vulnerable. "Yes," he finally admitted. "I've been unemployed for almost 3 months. Today, I had an interview at the shoe factory, but I think I missed the opportunity." The old woman slightly tilted her head. "You have lost nothing, Mara. Some doors close so that we can see the ones that have always been open." "With all due respect, Donna Eulalia, open doors do not pay bills," replied Mara with a tired sigh. "I don't regret helping you, but now I'm back to the zero," he is sure. The question stopped in the air like the aroma of the hanging herbs. "Look out the window." Intrigued, Mara turned to the small window to her right. What saw her gauge? The sky, which once showed sparse clouds, now displayed vibrant colors of a spectacular sunset. But how was it possible? It was still 3 o'clock in the afternoon when he found Donna Eulalia. "How long are we here?" Mara asked, alarmed, getting up abruptly. "Time does not always flow as we imagine," said Donna Eulalia calmly. "Sometimes a minute contains hours. Other times, hours spent in the blink of an eye." A chill traveled the spine of Mara. He took his cell phone in his pocket. He was out of battery despite his charge completely before leaving home. His wristwatch had stopped, the fixed pointers in 3 hours. "What is happening?" he questioned, a touch of panic starting to color his voice. "Who is you, really?" Donna Eulalia put her empty glass on the table calmly. "I'm just an elderly woman who needed help with a bucket of water. And you, Mara, was the only one in a long time you stopped to help me." The simplicity of the answer contrasted with the strangeness of the situation, but something in the tone of the elderly made Mara calm down. He sat back on, still apprehensive. "Why do I? There must be more kind people in this city." "Goodness is not scarce, my daughter. What is missing is the courage to exercise it when there is a personal cost. You sacrificed an opportunity to help someone who had nothing to offer you in return. This is rare, rarer than you might think." Donna Eulalia got up and walked to an old dresser carved with intricate symbols. He opened a drawer and withdrew a small object wrapped in a green velvet cloth. 3 generations, continued the elderly woman. I've been testing people in this place. I seek someone worthy of a very special gift, someone who sees beyond appearances, who puts compassion above self-interest. Mara swallowed hard, feeling that she was witnessing something far beyond her understanding. You are scaring me a little, he has admitted sincerely. Donna Eulalia smiled tenderly. The unknown always scares us, isn't it? But sometimes it is precisely what we fear we find our salvation. She approached Mara and extended the object wrapped in velvet. This belonged to my grandmother, and before her my grandmother's grandmother. He went from guardian to guardian for longer than I can tell. With slightly trembling hands, Mara received the package. It was heavier than it seemed. He looked at Donna Eulalia, who nodded, encouraging her to disembody him. Inside the velvet was an antique-looking medallion, made of a metal that Mara could not identify. It was not gold, neither silver nor bronze. It had an opaque and vibrant shine at the same time. In the center, a water-green stone pulsed with an inner light, as if he continued a piece of the night sky. Around the stone, inscriptions in an unknown language formed hypnotizing patterns. Yeah, beautiful, murmured Mara, mesmerized by the object. But I can't accept something so valuable. It must be a family relic. It is precisely because it is valuable that it should go to the right hands, answered Donna Eulalia. This medallion is not just a jewel, Mara. It's a driver of possibilities, of paths, of destinations that are waiting to be discovered. The elderly Manley touched the locket, and for a moment the stone shone more intensely. This object helps to see what is hidden, find what was lost, to open doors that look like closed. Mara looked at the locket with renewed skepticism. That sounded as superstition, something her practical education has always taught her to discard. Donna Eulalia, thank you very much, but— You do not believe, interrupted the elderly without any tone of accusation. It's natural. We live in a world that values only what can be measured, heavy, proven. But there are more layers in reality than our instruments can detect, Mara. You took the medallion from Mara's hands and, with a surprisingly agile gesture, placed it around the young woman's neck. Use it for 3 days. That alone, I ask. If after this time you don't notice anything different in your life, you can return it or do whatever you want with it. Feeling the weight of the medallion against his chest, Mara experienced a strange sensation, as if a warm chain walked his body from head to toe. For a second, his vision seemed to change. The colors of the environment became more vivid, and he would swear to have seen small, colorful lights dancing around Donna Eulalia. He flashed quickly, and the vision returned to normal. What just happened? He asked, confused. The first awakening, said Donna Eulalia with a knowledgeable smile. The locket is getting used to you, and you with him. The complete tune takes time. Mara played the object with hesitation. Despite his doubts, he could not deny that there was something special about him. The temperature slightly above normal, the weight that seemed to vary subtly, as if breathing. 3 days, repeated, still uncertain. 3 days, confirmed the elderly woman. Now I think it's time for you to go back. The sun is already put, and even if the way seems different from what is used to, trust that it will come where you need it. With these enigmatic words, Donna Eulalia gently led Mara to the cabin door. Outside, the sky displayed orange and red shades that painted the clouds as the work of a passionate artist. How do I thank you for the water? Mara asked, suddenly remembering the original motive that had taken her there. You have already given me something much more valuable than water, my daughter, said Donna Eulalia. It gave me hope that there are still pure hearts in this increasingly selfish world. Mara felt her cheeks burn with the compliment. I didn't do anything much. Anyone decent would do the same. Ah, if that were true, sighed the elderly woman with a touch of melancholy. Go now and remember. 3 days. Note, feel, allow yourself to see beyond the veil. A little stunned by the surreal experience, Mara said goodbye and followed the trail that now seemed strangely different, wider, lighter, despite the sunset. As he walked, he could not avoid looking back one last time. What he saw, or rather what he didn't see, made his heart jump inside his chest. The cabin had disappeared. In the place where it should be, there was only an old, twisted tree, lonely in the midst of arid terrain, without any sign of the green oasis that Mara Jura would have seen minutes earlier. "Impossible," murmured to herself, rubbing her eyes as if she could undo an illusion. But nothing has changed. With a rapid heart, he rushed his step down the trail, trying to understand what was going on. Was it tired? Had she imagined the whole meeting? But the weight of the locket against your skin was too real to just be the product of your imagination. By the time it reached the main street, the moon was already beginning to emerge on the horizon. The lights of the posts were lit one by one, and few people were still moving along the sidewalks. Mara consulted a man who was hurrying. "Excuse me, sir, what time is it?" The man looked briefly to the clock. "Almost 8 in the night, girl." 8 at night. It was impossible. She had left home shortly after noon. Even considering all the time spent on Donna Eulalia, it couldn't be that late. Mara thanked the stranger and headed toward her house, her mind sealing out of no-response questions. Passing a showcase, his reflection caught his attention. The medallion shone subtly in the artificial light, contrasting with his simple shirt. When he arrived at the small apartment he rented on the periphery, he found 3 Jasper messages on his electronic desk. The first, furious, reproach her for losing the interview. The second, a few hours later, calmer, asking where she was, because no one could contact her. The third, visibly worried, almost begging her to call as soon as she got home. Mara took the phone and dialed Jasper's number, which answered in the first touch. "Where the hell did you get into?" His voice sounded between relief and irritation. "We're all worried. You just disappeared." Mara hesitated. How to explain something that did not even understand? "I helped that lady with the water, as you saw. Then..." Time passed faster than I realized. Faster. "Mara, almost 7 hours you disappeared. I came back to look for you after the interview and no one had seen you or that old. It's like you both had evaporated." A heavy silence settled between them. Mara could hear Jasper's bustling breath from the other end of the line. "I'm sorry for worrying you," he said finally. "I'm fine, just tired. Tomorrow we talked better, can it be?" Jasper sighed deeply. "Okay. But I want to know exactly what happened. And just for the record, the manager was waiting until the 4. He said he could reschedule next week if you're still interested." That information surprised Mara. From what Jasper had said earlier, the manager was extremely strict with schedules. "Really? That would be..." "Great," he said, feeling a little relief in all that confusion. "Monday, 9 in the morning. Don't be late this time," said Jasper before turning off. Mara put the phone on the hook and collapsed in the armchair, spent the small room. His mind was still trying to process the events of the day. Instinctively, their fingers sought the locket, feeling its peculiar heat. As he watched him more closely under the direct light of the lamp, he noted that the recorded symbols seemed to change subtly, as if they were alive, reordering themselves in ever-new patterns. 3 days, he muttered, remembering the promise made to Donna Eulalia. "Let's see what happens." That night Mara slept a deep and dreamless sleep, the most repairer in months. When he woke up the next morning, he felt strangely invigorated, as if he had rested for a whole week. The sun entered the cheap curtain cracks, forming golden patterns on the floor spent. It was Saturday, and usually Mara would take the opportunity to look for temporary work, cleaning, seams, anything that could generate some extra income. But today, something inside it suggested a different way. While preparing his rational coffee, the package needed to last another week, the phone rang. It was Carmen, owner of the small grocery store from the corner. Mara almost dropped her cup of coffee. Work was exactly what I needed, even for just 1 day, and Donna Carmen has always been fair to her payments. "Of course I can, Donna Carmen. What time do you need me to arrive?" "If you could come in half an hour, it would be perfect." "The truck reaches 9. "I'll be there," Mara replied, already calculating mentally how much I could earn for the day of work. Maybe enough to buy food for the whole week. After off the phone, she quickly finished the coffee and went to get ready. As he combed his hair in front of the small cracked mirror of the bathroom, the reflection of the medallion caught his attention. Under the morning light, the stone seemed less mysterious, more opaque, just an ancient and probably worthless jewel. For a moment he considered leaving him at home, but remembered the promise of the 3 days. "It costs nothing," he murmured to herself, setting the medallion under the blouse. 30 minutes later, Mara entered the grocery store of Donna Carmem, a modest construction that served the community for over 3 decades. The familiar smell of grains, spices, and cleaning products mixed it created a comforting atmosphere. "Mara, honey, glad you came." Donna Carmen came up behind the counter, her face marked by time but always kind. "The truck should arrive at any time." "I'm ready to help, Donna Carmen," Mara answered with a smile. While waiting, Mara began to organize some misaligned shelves. That's when you noticed something strange. The medallion against her chest warmed suddenly, and passing a pile of cans of corn, she felt a kind of vibration. Instinctively, Mara poured 2 cans and found, hidden among them, a 50 and forgotten 50 Rays note. He looked around, confused. The money must have fallen from a distracted client. "Donna Carmem," he called, holding the note. "I found it among the cans." "You adjusted your glasses to see better." "Holy God, it must be from Mr. Augustus. He was here yesterday buying groceries for the asylum and said it was missing money when he went to pay." Mara felt the medallion cool again against her skin. He had just found something lost, just as Donna Eulalia had said the locket would allow it. "Coincidence," murmured to herself, handing the money to Donna Carmem. The delivery truck arrived on time, and the rest of the morning passed in a blur of boxes, inventories, and storage. Around noon, when he organized a new shipment of flour in the pantry of the back, Mara heard altered voices from the front of the store. "I said I don't want to know. Either it pays me what it should or does not take anything else spun." It was the voice of Antonio, son of Donna Carmem, known for her impatience with customers who bought credit. Mara espoed discreetly and saw an elderly lady, clearly embarrassed, holding a small shopping list in her trembling hand. "But I always paid everything, your Antonio. It's just this month my husband's medicine increased and—" "Your problem," cut Antonio dryly. "Rules are rules." At this point, Mara felt the locket warm up against her chest, pulsing as if she had her life. Without thinking twice, he got out of the pantry and approached the counter. "Excuse me," intervened, feeling courage I didn't know how to possess. "I can advance the value for you." Both Antonio and the elderly look at her with surprise. "You don't even know how much it is," said Antonio, frowning. "It doesn't matter," Mara replied, although actually mattered a lot. Every penny in her budget was meticulously calculated. The locket got even warmer, almost feverish against his skin, and at that moment Mara noticed something extraordinary. When looking at the old lady, she could see a kind of golden aura around her, and words seemed to float in the air between them. "She will return in ways you can't imagine." "It's 27 Rays," said Antonio, indifferent to the client's dilemma. Mara swallowed hard. It was a significant amount for his standards, almost a quarter of what he expected to earn on that day at work. Even so, he opened his bag and removed the money he had separated to buy his own food of the week. The old lady, who performed as Donna Clade, thanked, tears in her eyes. "God pay you, my daughter. As soon as I receive my retirement on Wednesday, I come to return every penny." "Don't worry," Mara replied, feeling a strange certainty that she had done the right thing despite the sacrifice. When Donna Clade was coming out, she turned one last time. "Do you work here now, my young woman?" "Just today, to help Donna Carmem." "Ah," the elderly woman seemed thoughtful. "Do you know how to sew by chance?" Mara nodded, surprised by the question. "Yes, I worked for years in a confection before closing because of the automation." Donna Clade's face lit up. "My niece has a small sewing workshop across the city. Lost 2 employees this week and is desperate looking for people with experience. It is on Rua das Acacias, number 47. Say it was Clede who sent it." With that, the lady is gone, leaving Mara perplexed. The locket, which seconds before burned against your skin, now returned to normal temperature. It had happened again. A seemingly closed door had just opened. When the hours ended in the late afternoon, Donna Carmen paid Mara the combined another extra for honesty with the money found, and a small basket with groceries. "You didn't need to, Donna Carmen," protested Mara, although her stomach snored when she saw the fresh bread and the fruits. "Yes, I needed. Good people are increasingly rare in this world," answered the lady with a warm smile. "And I heard about what you did by Donna Cleide. Antonio can be very hard sometimes." Mara returned home carrying the basket, the mind full of thoughts about the strange events of the day. 2 coincidences in less than 24 hours after receiving the locket. Was there any mysterious force operating, or was she just more attentive to opportunities? In his small apartment, he put the basket on the table and sat, exhausted but strangely satisfied. He took the neck medallion to see him better in the lamplight. The symbols seemed different again, reorganized as if they told a new story. "You're real, aren't you?" he murmured to the object, feeling a little foolish to speak with a piece of metal. At that moment, the phone rang, making her jump in fright. It was Jasper. "So, how was your day?" he asked, the voice still carrying a slight tone of resentment for the lost interview. "Surprising," Mara replied, deciding not to mention the inexplicable events. "I worked at Donna Carmen's grocery store and got a track on another job in a sewing workshop." "Seriously, that's great. But what about the second factory interview?" Mara hesitated, her hands involuntarily seeking the locket on the table. "I'll attend, of course, but it doesn't cost to have more options, isn't it?" Sunday dawned with a thin and invigorating rain, the first in months in that region punished by drought. Mara woke up with the sound of the drops in the window and a feeling of anticipation that had not been experiencing for a long time. The locket was resting on the nightstand, capturing and reflecting the low light that entered the cracks of the curtain. For a moment, Mara thought she saw the central stone pulse like a heart, but as she flashed, the illusion disappeared. He decided that he would go to the sewing workshop mentioned by Donna Cleide, despite the rain. He dressed carefully, choosing his best clothes still presentable after years of use. He hesitated briefly before putting the locket, but something compelled to keep him with him. It was the second day of the promise, after all. Acacia Street was 40 minutes of walking in a neighborhood that Mara rarely attended. Under his shabby umbrella, he watched how the rain transformed the arid city, washing the accumulated dust, bringing life and color again to the dry plants that decorated the sidewalks. When folding a corner, his foot sank into a deep pool, completely soaking his only pair of decent shoes. "Damn," he exclaimed, shaking his foot notely. "How would you make a good impression like that?" At this very moment, the medallion warmed against his chest, and Mara noted a small store across the street with a poster in the showcase. "Total settlement. Footwear from $15. "Impossible," he murmured, looking at the medallion. "Are you guiding me now?" Even skeptical, he crossed the street and entered the store. 20 minutes later, he went out wearing a pair of comfortable new shoes that had only cost 12 rays, the last pair of stock and exactly his number. The sewing workshop was an adapted old townhouse with visible machines through the large first-floor windows. A discreet plate identified, "Creations Lena, Reforms and Modeling." When Mara entered, she was received by the familiar sound of sewing machines and the characteristic smell of new fabrics. A middle-aged woman, grey hair attached to a firm bun, lifted her eyes from a pile of mold. "Can I help?" he asked in a tired voice. "I hope so," Mara replied, nervously straightening the bag of the bag. "Donna Cleide told me that you need seamstresses with experience." The woman's face has become instantly, "Do you know Cleide? Thank God, I'm desperate here. I'm Helena, but everyone calls me Lena. You really have experience." 7 years at Confecciones Progresso before they close. He worked mainly with fine finishes and adjustments. Lena's eyes shone. "Finishes, that's exactly what I need. I have a big order for a wedding next week, and I lost my 2 best seamstresses for a new factory in the industrial district." As they talked, the medallion under Mara's blouse he warmed gradually. When Lena mentioned the salary, almost double what Mara would earn at the footwear factory, felt the object vibrate slightly against her skin. "When can you start?" Lena asked, looking hopefully. Mara hesitated, thinking about Monday's interview. The locket warmed even more. "Tomorrow, if you prefer," he heard, surprising herself with the decision. "Perfect!" Lena clapped, relieved. Come at 8. I will prepare your hiring documents. Upon leaving the workshop, Mara was divided between excitement by opportunity and concern for having practically ignored the interview at the factory. Why had you done that? It was not your way to make such impulsive decisions. The medallion, now cold again against his chest, seemed heavier than before. The rain had stopped, leaving the air clean and fresh. Mara decided to take a longer way to return, passing through the city's central park. It was a luxury that rarely allowed itself, time to simply walk without haste, without the constant anxiety of immediate survival. He sat in a damp bench by the rain, watching some children who were already playing in the puddles, their laughter echoing as music. For the first time in months, it was allowed to smile without reservation. That's when he noticed an elderly man in the bench next to him, clumsy, trying to open a package of cookies. His trembling hands and deformed by arthritis made the task almost impossible. No one but Mara seemed to notice his silent suffering. The locket warmed softly, not the intense heat of previous moments, but a kind heat, like a delicate reminder. Mara didn't need magic to know what to do. "Can I help you with this, sir?" it offered, approaching. The man raised his eyes, surprised and a little suspicious. "If it's not uncomfortable..." Mara took the package, opened it carefully and returned to the Lord. He thanked him with a nod, and, to her surprise, offered him a cookie. "My daughter always tells me that I shouldn't talk to strangers in the park," he commented with a slight smile, "but you have kind eyes." "Thank you," answered Mara, accepting the cookie. "My name is Mara." "Alberto," he introduced himself. "Professor Alberto, in fact, although he has not taught for years." An easy conversation flowed between them. Alberto was a retired literature professor at the local university and had a special talent for telling stories. For almost an hour, Mara forgot about all her problems, lost in the fascinating narratives of the elderly about books, memorable students and youth trips. When she finally looked at the clock, Mara realized she needed to go. He faced his new friend warmly. "It was a pleasure to meet her, Mara," said Alberto, adjusting the scarf spent on his neck. "I come here every Sunday afternoons if you want to continue our conversation someday." "I would love it," she answered sincerely. As he walked away, he heard him call, "Oh, and Mara, that medallion you're using, it's very special. Take good care of him." Mara stopped, turning abruptly. "How do you know about the locket?" he asked, confused, because he was sure the object was hidden under his shirt all the time. Alberto just smiled mysteriously and waved farewell. That night, while preparing to sleep, Mara couldn't stop thinking about the events of the last 2 days. The money found in the grocery store, the job indication that seemed perfect for their skills, the shoe store just when it needed, and now the strange teacher who somehow knew about the locket. Coincidences? Or would it be the really magical object? How had Donna Eulalia suggested? Sitting on the edge of the bed, Mara examined the locket under the direct light of the lamp. The symbols seemed to change, reorganize, as if they were trying to communicate something she could not understand. "What are you doing to me?" whispered to the object. At that moment he realized something he had not noticed before. Under the central stone there was a small Portuguese inscription, almost imperceptible. "See, choose, transform." 3 simple words, but they resonated deeply in Mara. Is that what the medallion was doing? Helping her to see opportunities, choose paths, transform her life. He fell asleep with the locket still in his hand, his closed fingers protectively around him. His dreams were vivid and strange, Donna Eulalia images alternating with flashes of a younger woman, impressively similar to the elderly woman, using the same medallion at different times in different places, always helping people needy to find their way. The next morning, the 3rd and last day of the promise, Mara woke up with mental clarity she had not experienced for years. The decision that had made impulsively the day before now seemed perfectly logical. "I don't go to the factory interview," he said aloud as he got ready. Work with Lena not only paid better, but used his real skills, acquired in years of practice. Why settle for something inferior when a better path had opened? Before leaving, he called Jasper to explain his decision. "Are you crazy?" It was his immediate answer, playing out an opportunity guaranteed by something that has just appeared. I trust my intuition this time, answered Mara, surprising himself with his own conviction. Jasper sighed on the other end of the line. It's because of that strange lady of water, isn't it? What happened that day, Mara? You never explained to me right. Mara hesitated, her fingers unconsciously caressing the locket. One day I tell you the whole story, I promise. Now I have to go. I don't want to delay on the first day.